First, the definition that I gave can also be applied to movement in the hover tank, but you are restricted in the possibilities. But it's still movement, and it's still using the properties of water. Yeah? And it's immersion. So the definition does not apply to partial immersion with, for instance, only your legs and being in tubs in which you increase the temperature or decrease the temperature of the water. So that would belong to the Kneipp hydrotherapy. That's something that we don't consider as aquatic therapy. Now the word hydrotherapy, aquatic therapy, I was educated with hydrotherapy, which is the English term for doing things in a pool, whereas the Americans started to use aquatic therapy already a long time ago. Recently, the English hydrotherapy group changed the name into aquatic physiotherapy, just as the Australians did, and that has just a juridical reason, and the reason is that the word hydrotherapy is not protected, so there are many people now that come from psychology or something else, and they call themselves hydrotherapists. Physical therapy or physiotherapy is protected, and so we thought it better to change it into aquatic physiotherapy or aquatic physical therapy to show that we have our education in this respect.
Any more questions?
Oh, please.
Can you speak like
You didn't speak with us about the recent of the hydrotherapies, the recent tools. I hope to see with you about treadmill underwater and diagnostic tools underwater and even the therapeutic tools. There is, right? What about it now?
I didn't actually hear very well, but I could hear that you told me. Sorry, you told me that I didn't talk about the recent technology. Yeah. No, I show this. Indeed, there is lots of recent technology. Yeah, there are many examples of equipment that people use in the pool, and EWAC has a bicycle and an underwater treadmill. I show this. There is research enough, especially in gates. The research in gates and underwater treadmills comes mainly from Japan and is mostly it's partly kinetic and partly kinematic. And kinematic, there the most important part is about electromyography. The problem is that the protocols that have been used by various researchers in gate analysis using the treadmill, for instance, have been rather different. As examples, different heights, different velocities, different populations with different body mass indexes, with or without ankle weights, walking forward, walking backward, with current, against current. And so it's very difficult to draw conclusions from all this. Apart from the fact that you can say that the kinetics are dramatically changed when you go into the pool, thinking about the resistance and the buoyancy. The kinematics in walking are remarkably stable. It doesn't change so much. So that would be a general conclusion of gate research in which, for instance, treadmills have been used. Then the physiological research in underwater bicycles show that you are able to elicit the same short and long-term effects as with bicycle ergometer training on land, as long as you adhere to the rules of endurance training.
Actually, while I'm attending the combined section meeting at Chicago 4 months back, I see the recent approach, which is a degravitational locomotor activities. Is it applicable to use such a machine in collaboration with aquatic therapy? And how about the comparison effect between both? I think you know the gravitational locomotors, yeah.
Yeah. The answer is I don't know. Yeah. I have never seen a comparative study. Yeah. I have never heard of patients that do both. I know there is a place where they think of doing this, of putting patients both with this machine and in water, but to my knowledge they have not done this yet. It seems, I've seen somebody walking in it, I've not been in it myself, that of course when you need reduction of weight bearing, you can also walk in such a machine. But the same as with the treadmill. If you would only be able to walk on the treadmill or in this machine, you are able, of course, to make many movements. In other ways, you repeat with repetitions, but you are not able to vary. Yeah? And gait variability is another very important topic, and for this you need space. You need space and variations of the external constraints. So I could imagine that one part of gait you could nicely train. Yeah, that is just the amount of repetitions and locomotions that you need in order to train your spinal walking generator. But this gait variability would be more difficult, if not impossible.
No more question. Are you? Go ahead, please.
Dr. Lambert, when you talked about the advantages of hydrotherapy or aquatherapy, I was really looking for the other side of the, let's say, the puzzle, which is what are the risks of being in the water, like thought that you're going to mention something about the infection control, drowning, aspiration, whatever kind of problems, hazards that we are facing in the. Can you just highlight? And historically, with all of your experience, have you faced or remember a very sad incident during? Yes.
No, my memory is quite good, and I don't remember anything. Although, for 18 years in clinical practice, in a pool where we had about 250 patients every day, we had quite an amount of patients from in the whole rehabilitation field. Something happens now and then. First of all, I never faced a fatal accident. I'm happy. And this is partly because we had a safety protocol. All our employees knew what to do. Patients as well. The things that I saw, the two problems that I saw is one patient that suffered a stroke in the pool, but that could have been everywhere, basically. And we had a couple of children with epilepsy, and one child had an epileptic fit that we didn't expect. But in a school with 250 children with CP, it could have happened much more often, but it never happened. So this is my experience. We also had cardiology, cardiac rehabilitation, where you might expect also problems. And there, of course, the cardiologists did their tests, echosonography and the ergometer tests and so on, following the NIHA system as well. But I taught many courses with cardiologists in the Netherlands for the cardiac groups after rehabilitation, and I quote the statements of the cardiologist who himself had an aquatic group already at that time for many, many years. He said, look at their eyes, then you know enough. Good. Also in cardiology, I never had a problem, and I never heard of a problem, so a heart attack, for instance, in the pool